Chosen one. Before you continue listening, take a slow breath and ask yourself one question. What if the hardest part of your journey is already behind you? Not tomorrow, not next month, not someday in the distant future. What if the battle that exhausted your spirit, stole your sleep, and tested your faith has already reached its ending? Because something unusual is happening right now. And if you have been seeing signs, feeling a shift in your spirit, or sensing that something is changing around you even though you cannot fully explain it, then this message may be exactly what your heart needs to hear today. The truth is, most people saw your struggle, but very few understood your test. They saw you smiling while carrying pain. They saw you showing up while fighting silent battles. They saw you moving forward, but they never saw the nights when you questioned everything. They never saw the moments when you wondered if God had forgotten you. They never saw the tears you wiped away before anyone else noticed, yet heaven saw every single moment. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was ignored. Nothing was wasted. And that is why this message is important, because what happens next cannot be understood unless you first understand why you had to survive what happened before. If you truly believe God brought you this far for a reason, type 777 in the comments. Not because numbers have power, but because your faith does. Chosen one. There was a period in your life when it felt like every door was closing, every answer seemed delayed, every breakthrough seemed out of reach. You prayed, you waited, you trusted, and still nothing appeared to change. At least, that is what it looked like on the surface. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. God was building a version of you that could carry the blessing you have been praying for. Because sometimes the blessing is not delayed. Sometimes the person receiving it is still being prepared. Think about that for a moment. What if the waiting season was not punishment? What if it was preparation? What if every setback was secretly positioning you for something bigger than you can currently see? That changes everything. Because suddenly your story is no longer about loss. It becomes a story about transformation and chosen one. Transformation is never comfortable. The caterpillar must enter darkness before it becomes a butterfly. The seed must disappear beneath the soil before it becomes a tree. Gold must pass through fire before it shines, and you had your own fire. You had your own darkness. You had your own season underground. But you survived. That is what matters. You survived. Many people would have quit. Many people would have given up. Many people would have allowed bitterness to take control. But somehow, even when you felt weak, even when you felt tired, even when you felt alone, you kept moving. One step, then another, then another. And now you are standing at the edge of a chapter that looks completely different from the one you are leaving behind. If you believe God is turning your page to a new chapter, type yes below. Because the next part of this message is where things become interesting. There is something most people do not realize. The test was never designed to destroy you. The test was designed to reveal you. To reveal your strength, your faith, your patience, your purpose, your calling. Without the test, you would never have discovered what was hidden inside you. And now that the test is ending, something new is beginning. You may already feel it. A strange sense of peace. A quiet confidence. A feeling that things are about to change. Not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily. Like sunrise replacing darkness. Like winter giving way to spring. Like healing replacing pain. And that feeling is not your imagination. It is a signal, a sign, a reminder that your season is shifting. But here is the part nobody talks about. When a season changes, not everyone can go with you. Some relationships will naturally fade. Some doors will quietly close. Some situations will remove themselves from your life. Do not fear this, because not every ending is a loss. Sometimes an ending is protection. Sometimes an ending is direction. Sometimes an ending is the answer to a prayer you forgot you prayed. And chosen one, There is one specific thing God wants you to understand right now. The person you were during the struggle cannot be the person who enters the blessing. That version of you had to grow, had to heal, had to learn, had to become stronger. And you did. You may not see it yet, but you did. Look at how far you have come. Look at what you survived. Look at the battles you thought would break you. Yet here you are, still standing, still believing, still moving forward. That is not weakness, that is strength. If you are grateful that God carried you through your hardest season, type 111 in the comments. Because gratitude unlocks perspective. And perspective reveals how much progress you have already made. Now listen carefully, because the next part may be the most important part of this entire message. Something is about to happen that you have been waiting for longer than you realize. But it is not what most people expect. It is not just a blessing. It is not just an opportunity. It is not just a breakthrough. It is clarity. The kind of clarity that changes everything. The kind of clarity that helps you finally understand why certain things happened, why certain people left, why certain plans failed, why certain doors never opened, and once that clarity arrives, you will never look at your past the same way again, because you will finally see that God was protecting you from things you thought you wanted, preparing you for things you never imagined, and leading you toward a future that is greater than anything you left behind. But there is one final revelation you must understand before that future fully unfolds. And that revelation is connected to a sign that has already started appearing around your life, a sign most people completely miss. And that revelation is connected to a sign that has already started appearing around your life, a sign most people completely miss. But you are not most people. You were never meant to be. Because chosen one, what you call random events, are not random at all. What you call coincidences are actually coded messages, and what you call delay is often divine timing unfolding in disguise. Right now, something subtle has already begun in your life. It didn't announce itself loudly. It didn't arrive with celebration. It came quietly, almost unnoticeable, but consistent. And that is why it matters. Because heaven rarely speaks through noise. It speaks through patterns, through repetition, through doors that close without explanation, and through thoughts that keep returning even when you try to ignore them. Tell me something. Have you been noticing repeated signs lately? Repeated numbers, repeated thoughts, repeated dreams, repeated situations that feel familiar, almost too familiar, not once, not twice, but again and again. Because if you have, then you are already inside the shift, and most people never realize it until it is too late. Chosen one, let's go deeper. There is a moment in every transformation where reality starts to glitch, not in a scary way, but in a revealing way. Things stop making sense the way they used to. People act differently toward you. Situations don't respond the same anymore. Even your own thoughts begin to change. You start questioning things you were once certain about, and you start feeling things you cannot explain. That is not confusion. That is alignment beginning to activate. Because when your inner frequency changes, your outer world begins to rearrange itself. And that rearrangement is what you are feeling right now. But here is what makes this stage dangerous for most people. They misinterpret it. They think something is going wrong. When in reality, something is finally going right. You were never stuck. You were shifting. You were never abandoned. You were being redirected, and you were never losing your path. You were being separated from the wrong one. Now listen carefully, because this is where clarity begins to form. There is a reason certain people suddenly feel distant from you. There is a reason conversations feel different. There is a reason you no longer find peace in places that once felt normal. And there is a reason your old habits don't satisfy you anymore. It is not loss. It is elevation, because chosen one, you cannot carry old energy into a new season. It simply will not fit, like trying to pour an ocean into a broken cup. something has to break. Something has to shift. Something has to be released. And yes, that release can feel uncomfortable, but it is necessary, because what is coming next requires space. And space is created through letting go. Now let's talk about the part most people fear: silence, the quiet phase. The phase where nothing seems to be happening externally, but everything is happening internally. This is where doubt tries to enter. This is where impatience grows. This is where people quit right before their breakthrough. But not you. Because even in silence, something is building, deep beneath the surface. Like roots growing before a tree appears. Like dawn forming before light arrives. Like breath gathering before a storm clears. And even if you cannot see it yet, your life is preparing to expand. But expansion requires pressure, and pressure reveals truth. It reveals who you are when nothing is happening. It reveals your patience, your faith, your emotional strength, and your ability to trust without evidence. Now, chosen one, let's address something you've been feeling but may not have admitted. There are moments when you feel like your prayers are hitting silence, like no one is listening, like the sky is closed, like your words are disappearing into nothing. But that feeling is not rejection. It is refinement. Because sometimes, what you are asking for requires a version of you that does not exist yet. So instead of giving the answer immediately, life begins to shape it touches your identity, your comfort, your assumptions. Everything familiar gets questioned. But through that questioning, a stronger version of you is formed. Now listen closely, because something important is about to become clear. The delay you experienced was never meant to block you. It was meant to build timing. Because even the right blessing at the wrong time can become a burden. And heaven does not give burdens disguised as blessings. It waits until your hands are strong enough, your mind is stable enough, and your spirit is ready enough. That is what has been happening behind the scenes. Now let's go deeper into the sign. There is a specific shift that chosen ones experience right before breakthrough. It is subtle, almost invisible, but powerful. You begin to lose interest in things that once distracted you, not because you are forcing it, but because your energy no longer feeds it. You begin to feel called toward something higher, even if you cannot define it, even if you cannot explain it, even if no one around you understands it. And that inner pull, that quiet attraction toward change, that is your signal. That is your alignment speaking, because destiny does not shout. It pulls gently, consistently, relentlessly, until you either follow it or resist it. And resisting it only creates tension. That is why life feels heavier when you ignore your inner direction, not because something is wrong, but because something is trying to move you forward. Now, chosen one, here is something you need to understand deeply. You are not going back to who you were. That version of you served its purpose. It protected you. It survived for you. It learned lessons for you. But it cannot lead you anymore, because where you are going requires a different level of awareness, a different level of discipline, a different level of peace, and a different level of faith. So if you feel like you are changing, that is because you are. And change is not your enemy. Stagnation is. Now let's talk about relationships, because this is where many chosen ones struggle silently. Not everyone is meant to understand your evolution. Some people loved you in your old frequency, but cannot recognize you in your new one, and that creates distance. Not because anyone is wrong, but because alignment has changed. And when alignment changes, connections reorganize. Some deepen, some fade, some end completely, but every single one serves a purpose, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones, because they teach you discernment. They teach you boundaries. They teach you self-respect, and they teach you what you will never accept again. Now listen carefully, because this is where everything begins to make sense. The version of you that survived the storm was never meant to stay in the storm. It was meant to carry you out of it. And now that you are out, you cannot live like you are still inside it. That is the transition you are currently in, between survival and living, between endurance and expansion, between waiting and receiving. And yes, receiving is coming, but it will not arrive the way you imagined, because destiny rarely matches expectation. It exceeds it. in ways you only understand later. So if things feel uncertain right now, it is because the new reality has not fully revealed itself yet, but it is forming, quietly, precisely, divinely, and when it arrives, you will not question it, you will recognize it, because something inside you will say, "This is what I was being prepared for." Now, chosen one, the final part of this message is simple, but powerful. Stop measuring your life by what is visible right now, because what is visible is only the surface. The real story is underneath. And underneath, everything is changing. Everything is aligning. Everything is preparing. So if you have been feeling the shift, you are not imagining it. You are experiencing it. And the sign you were waiting for, it was never outside you. It has been inside you the entire time. Growing, evolving, becoming, and now it is ready to reveal itself, and now it is ready to reveal itself, but chosen one. Before that revelation fully arrives, there is something you must understand. Because what is coming next is not just another chapter in your story. It is the moment your entire story begins to make sense, not emotionally, not partially, but completely. And that kind of understanding does not come gently. It comes like a wave that washes away everything. False, everything temporary, everything you once depended on for comfort. Because clarity is not always soft. Sometimes clarity is powerful enough to shake your entire perception of reality, and if you are feeling that inner tension right now, that quiet pressure inside your chest, that strange sense that something is about to happen, then listen carefully, because you are already standing at the edge of it, not approaching it, not searching for it, standing at it right now, and most people never recognize this moment until it passes, but you are different. You are aware enough to feel it even if you cannot explain it, even if you cannot prove it, even if no one believes you yet. Something inside you already knows. Now breathe for a moment, because what I'm about to say will not feel like information, it will feel like remembrance. The moment everything starts to shift, there comes a point in every chosen one's journey where reality stops, behaving like it used to, not suddenly, not violently, but subtly. Like the world is adjusting its language around you. People begin to misunderstand you without reason. Opportunities seem to pause right before reaching you. Timing feels slightly off in situations that used to flow easily. And your inner world becomes louder than your outer world. This is not confusion, this is transition. Because when your frequency rises, your environment must recalibrate, and recalibration always feels like instability at first. But it is not instability, it is restructuring, and restructuring always looks like chaos before it becomes order. The hidden separation process. Now listen closely, because there is something happening around you that you may have already noticed but dismissed. Certain people are slowly disappearing from your emotional space. Not always physically, sometimes energetically. Conversations feel shorter, connections feel lighter, silences feel longer, and even when they are present, they no longer feel fully aligned with you. This is not random distance. This is divine separation. Because chosen one, not everyone is meant to witness your next version. Some people were only assigned to your survival chapter. Not your awakening chapter, not your blessing chapter, not your expansion chapter, just survival. And when survival ends, those assignments expire not because of hatred, not because of conflict, but because alignment has changed, and alignment is stronger than attachment. The emotional pressure before breakthrough. There is a stage just before breakthrough where everything feels emotionally heavy, not because something is wrong, but because something is about to change. You may find yourself overthinking small things, feeling deeply without clear reason, sensing emotional waves that come and go without warning, and questioning things you once accepted easily. This is the pressure before expansion, like air building before a storm breaks open the sky. But this storm is not destruction, it is release. Because what is trapped inside you cannot remain trapped forever. It must move, it must flow, it must transform. And that emotional intensity you are feeling, it is not your weakness, it is your system preparing for elevation. The shift you cannot reverse. Now chosen one, there is something very important you need to accept. You are not going back to your old life. Not fully, not emotionally, not spiritually. That version of you has already completed its purpose, even if you still think about it, even if parts of you miss it, even if familiarity tries to pull you backward. You are already shifting forward, and the shift that has begun inside you cannot be reversed, because awareness once awakened does not sleep again. You may pause, you may hesitate, you may doubt, but you cannot unknow what you now feel, and you cannot unsee what your spirit has already recognized. The silence that confuses most people. Now let's talk about the hardest stage, silence, the phase where life feels paused, where answers feel delayed, where results feel invisible, and where effort feels like it is going nowhere. This is the stage where most people give up. But this is also the stage where everything is being built, just not in a way you can see yet. Because chosen one, some things are constructed in darkness before they appear in light. Like roots beneath the soil, like foundations under a building, like code running behind a screen, invisible, but essential. And what is being built in your life right now is not small. It is foundational, which is why it takes time. Because if it arrived before you were ready, it would collapse under its own weight. So silence is not rejection. It is reinforcement. The emotional disconnect from the old self. At some point, you may notice something strange. Things that once excited you no longer excite you the same way. People you once chased no longer feel necessary. Places that once felt comforting now feel emotionally empty. This is not depression. This is evolution, because your inner world is upgrading. And upgrades always make old systems feel outdated. Even your thoughts begin to shift. Even your desires begin to refine. Even your reactions begin to soften. And slowly, without forcing it, you begin becoming someone new. Not someone different, but someone deeper. The invisible training phase now chosen one. There is something happening behind the scenes that you cannot yet fully understand. You are being trained, not physically, not externally, but internally. Your patience is being strengthened. Your emotional balance is being refined. Your intuition is becoming sharper. Your awareness is becoming clearer. And your resistance is being removed. Because what is coming next requires stability, not urgency, not chaos, not emotional reaction, but stability. And stability is not given, it is developed. Through silence, through waiting, through not understanding, through continuing anyway. The first sign of arrival, and now, the sign you have been waiting for begins to appear. Not as an explosion, not as a dramatic event, but as a feeling, a quiet internal knowing that something is finally starting to align. You cannot explain it, you cannot prove it, but you feel it, like dawn before sunrise, like wind before rain, like the moment before a door opens without sound, and suddenly, you stop forcing things, you stop chasing things. You stop resisting what is leaving, because deep inside, you already sense what is coming, the truth about your journey. Now listen carefully. Everything you went through was not punishment. It was preparation. Every delay had direction. Every loss had instruction. Every ending had purpose. And every silence had design. Nothing was accidental. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was meaningless. Even the moments you thought broke you were actually building you, and now you are beginning to see it. Not fully, but enough to feel it. And that is how awakening begins. Not with answers, but with awareness. The final transition before change. There is one last phase before everything changes, and that phase is acceptance. Not passive acceptance, but deep internal surrender, the moment you stop asking, why is this happening? And start sensing, this is happening for something. Because chosen one, the moment your perception shifts, your reality follows, and what has been delayed will begin to move. What has been silent will begin to speak. And what has been hidden will begin to reveal itself. And right now, you are closer than you have ever been. Not because everything is visible, but because everything is aligning. And the next time something shifts in your life, you will not be confused. You will recognize it. Because your spirit will already know, this is the beginning of what I was waiting for.